right. So, welcome again, Sally, to the Zoom room. So, you were saying you just had an experience just before the call about time. You
Yeah,
just seemed to stand still for it gave you a whole lot more time than you would
yeah.
have thought was available.
Both today and yesterday, I thought there's absolutely no way I can get on the call. I got so much work on and had to be done. And so I was doing it with in mind to come on later onto the call. But the clock just didn't move and I managed to get it all done. And here I am. So yeah,
Yeah.
time stood still to make sure I came on the call.
Hmm. I was saying that the miracle, Yeshua says earlier in the text, the miracle is the only device at our disposal for controlling time. Because when you go into a timeless state, then naturally you transcend time, and that starts to play with time, and potentially create more time if it's necessary to do things that are important. So it just shows you time is it's relative, not absolute, as Einstein picked up. So, the time is not an absolute. Time is a relative, hence the theory of relativity. The only absolute is pure formless awareness, which is by definition eternal. So there's no change. If you think about it, only change and time go hand in hand. How do we measure change? We measure it in time. If there was no change, then there'd be no time,
Mm.
because time is the measure of change. And you need space as well, because things change in space over time. See how it's all bound up into the construct of
Mm.
illusion. And if you remove that, no time, no space, nothing changes, then well, time doesn't exist. So
Mm.
what this teaching is saying is that actually only the now, which is really just pure formless awareness, it's eternal, it doesn't change. You're only really rooted in the now when you have that awareness. That is actually the truth, and then what's covering it over is this illusion of time and space and change, things happening in time, and then that gives us an illusion that things are happening, therefore time is progressing, but actually it's always now. So that eternal awareness is always there, but it gets covered over by all the mind activity related to change, time, space, things moving around in space over time. And so the timeless then gets obscured by time and space and the happenings in time and space. And then most people think of life as, well, life is what happens in time. My life is, on a linear sequence from birth to death. And it's populated by all these events that seem to be, linear. Cause the one thing seems to cause another. I'll share my screen actually, I think. So I'll show you this timeline of consciousness again. So all of these events in time between birth and death and seem to be what our life is. If you ask most people, what's your life? Well, it's saying, well, this is the story of my life, populated by all of these experiences and events that have seemed to happen in space over time. And if you go into the timeless dimension, the pure formless awareness, and you access that, then you're still seemingly living here in a body, but your perception of time is altered. And so it doesn't seem to be the same. And you can have miraculous experiences like you just described. With, actually, I'm starting to see that time isn't absolute. It's relative. It can seem to flex and change. So is it even real? And anything that's relative by definition can't be real. So it has no absolute reality. It's relative to other things. It's perceptual. Relativity means it's perceptual, which is exactly what Einstein, proved. His theory of relativity was all about this is all relative. Time and space are relative, not absolute. He was looking for the grand unified theory, but he was looking in the wrong place. He was looking for it in the domain of time and space, which is by definition relative. And he wasn't looking, well, maybe he started to look, but you're never going to find the absolute in relativity, are you? You've got to look elsewhere, beyond the construct, outside of the construct of time and space, which means, of course, the models all break down. You can't really frame that and put equations to it and model it because it's formless. It's timeless and formless. It's infinite and eternal. So how would you model it? And so the scientists stay away from it, although they get glimpses of it. Oh, okay, so they see this everything's relative, and cosmologists understand that the universe came into being in one explosion, but then they don't look beyond that. Say, well, what's beyond that? I was listening to a talk not so long ago by a quantum physicist, and he said that one sentence in the talk, which was the most intriguing. He said, well, at time t equals 0, which is the time before the Big Bang, we don't know what happened. We don't know anything. And then he just didn't pause for breath and carried on. But that's like really interesting. If you pause there, you go, okay, well, we don't actually know that. That's the unknown. Maybe that's where the truth lies. Maybe we should forget all the models that we try to, so then he goes on, but we're trying to explain the universe better, got the standard model, and he just skipped over the truth. He's not aware of it. Doesn't want to be aware of it. So these little experiences are there to just kind of wake you up, aren't they? Just like, actually, I can see that time is relative. It's not absolute. So only my pure formless awareness is absolute, which is timeless. And so you start to have these experiences that eventually teach you that only this is true and all of this is false and therefore non-existent. And then you're free. You mentioned you wrote a letter to your body.
Yeah, I woke up this morning and usually read the lesson first thing, but before I did that, I just found myself writing to the ego body, and I just said, I know you're an illusion in my mind. I appreciate the learnings you've brought me. I get the sense we could play like this forever and ever. I feel it's time for me to let go of this game. I know who I am. I'm not you. I am me. It was strange believing I was a body. And in truth, I am awareness of formless love. And I've decided to let go of my illusion of being you. I wish now to live as pure formless awareness through you and not of you. And let's enjoy the truth of who I am. Yeah, it was weird writing it because it was like I wasn't thinking of writing it. And
just came spontaneously.
Yeah, it was odd. It wasn't really, that was an odd one. It was like it didn't feel like it was me, the true self, writing it. It was kind of an aspect of me that I didn't know. I do a lot of writing, and I often write first thing in the morning when I wake up, and you're in that half awake, half asleep stage. That's usually a good time to write. But this, there feels like there's been a shift over the last week or so. And I find things like I'm running a workshop and I'll suddenly see myself, watch myself doing it, open my mouth and having no idea what's coming out. And I watch myself doing it with no participation in it. when before I used to hear the words in my head and then say them. And now it feels a little bit on the edge to see myself open my mouth and wonder what the heck's going to come out, or every word that comes out, never knowing what the next word is coming out. So there's definitely been a shift with me. Like maybe I'm getting out the way a bit more.
Well, it's that emptiness. The emptiness then speaks through you. So you don't actually know. There's nothing pre-planned about it. It just comes. So you're not planning it in advance, deciding what you're going to say. The words just moment by moment just arise. You can't really explain how it works, can you?
But it was like watching myself in the midst of a recording of a workshop, aware that my mouth is open. But yeah, it was just an odd sensation. I realized previously I've always heard the words and then, I had the discernment if to say them or not. But this feels another view of it all.
Oh, just the witnessing presence, to be able to be there and just observe the character speaking.
That's what it was.
This isn't really me.
Watching the character speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a sense of that, higher awareness. It's able to zoom out and just observe that and go, oh, okay. So, but I'm not the character. The body isn't me. The words aren't me. There's just an awareness that transcends it all.
I think I'll have to listen back to the recording and see what the avatar
came out.
Yeah, because at the time when I was observing it, it didn't feel very profound or anything. But yeah, I'll listen back and see what was said.
Well, I suppose the words themselves don't have to be, but it's that state of just being the witnessing presence. And then that's a state of detachment, really, from the character and from the body, because who's watching that show?
Yes.
You must then be the watcher. It's this higher awareness arising. It's able to watch it, and it really does feel like you're above it. You've transcended it. That's why they use the language. You've risen above the battleground, or you've transcended, or you've raised your consciousness. Because it feels like you're just kind of observing it, going, okay, with no personal attachment. It's just a witnessing presence. It's not like, oh, I've got any kind of personal attachment to what's going to happen, what's going to be said or done. Just a pure witnessing state. And these experiences are all part of the awakening, really. Okay, so you're the witness. You're not the body, you're not the character, not the personality, not identified really with what's being said. So you let all that go, and then what comes through must be from pure formless awareness, perfect love. It's coming from a source that is not you.
And then just the ego is slightly there going, oh, what's she going to say? Oh, just a little bit of like,
oh, yeah.
This is my job.
Is anything going to come out here?
Yeah, it could be anything, couldn't it? Yeah. But it's good. I can see the changes over the last few weeks, especially since I started coming on nearly every day. Definitely a faster shift, daily shift.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea, a daily program. It's like an immersion kind of thing. This is why workshops and seminars and retreats work quite well, but it's for a short period. It's 2-3 days. People go, wow, there could be a lot of shift in that time because they're immersing themselves into it. So this is like, okay, we'll just, every day you're gonna put in a couple of hours, and then you're doing other spiritual practice. So maybe you're doing 2-3 hours a day, and that's just gonna progressively, keep doing that, just progressively and systematically and quickly undo these ego fetters, start revealing more and more of the truth. So,
And it also
wow.
feels like the formless awareness is promoting me to be here. That's why everything falls into place, and that's why there's no reason at all not to be able to get here for 12:30.
Mm.
And it's like it's beyond me now, beyond my control.
Mm. Yeah, well, they say, mighty forces come to your aid when you're really committed to this. So you have the willingness, and then it's okay. So she's willing, and so that part of your mind, the Holy Spirit, kind of kicks in and goes, okay, well, let's facilitate this, that this can happen, because this is what's most helpful, the awakening right now. And you've overcome the conscious resistance, presumably. So it's like, okay, well, now you just you open, and it feels good to come on, and then it's your help to do it. So you do get support, but it's like the willingness comes from you first, isn't it? I'm willing, and then I show that I'm willing, and I keep doing it, and then it's like, okay, now the miracles come in to support that.
Mm. Last week, when I had a week off from coaching, and I kind of was surrendering and just allowing myself, to do God's will or whatever. And I felt this like I've had such a lovely week off, and it was so nice that would I ever want to do anything other than that? Just to be still and be present. And I was a little bit not anxious, but wondering how it was going to pan out going back to work, to see if I'd changed so much in that week that my work might not be in alignment with me anymore. But I'd surrendered, so it'll be what it'll be. But there was a little bit of like, whoa, how's this going to pan out? So when I went back to work, it was like, it's not in my control what I do, but let's see if it still fits. And it did fit, and it felt really good to get back into doing the work and feeling really aligned in the work. But it was a little bit like, thank goodness for that. The next challenge isn't to change my job or anything. All right, I've surrendered and said I'll do whatever, but like I didn't really mean it. I felt like, leave me some things that are just going, trickling along as I'm used to. Don't change too much.
Yeah, well, it's good, because you're saying, well, whatever. True surrender is like, well, whatever. You show me, and if you say I must give it up, and that feels right, then that's what I must do. I mean, to refer back to the last movie, Moses. You think of the decision he had to make to leave his family. It's like, okay, that didn't make logical sense. He'd escaped. He had, nice, beautiful wife, a son. He had a life. Why go back to, this land of slavery? But this presence in him is saying, you got to go. And he's like, well, okay, I've got to surrender to this. I can't resist that, because if you resist it, if it's really coming from the divine, then you're going to suffer until you listen. That's just how it works. You don't honor the true call. So it's just learning to listen to that and say, and then you don't necessarily need to have to do it, but you're willing to do it. So, okay, so I'm willing to give it all up, and just, I don't know what, but I'm willing. If you're genuine, then it doesn't mean you have to, but it's like, are you willing? With that, you're not too familiar with the Bible, are you? But there was this, I never really fully understood it. It seemed really bloodthirsty. This story in the Old Testament where I think it was Isaac. It was either Isaac and his son Jacob, which was Abraham and his son Isaac, one of the two, sort of way back when in Jewish history, and I think it was Abraham, and Abraham says to God apparently says to Abraham, I want to sacrifice. You must sacrifice your son to me. It's like, whoa. And so, Abraham's like, well, I'll do whatever. And then he's about to do it, and then a ram sort of suddenly miraculously appears, and so he slaughters that instead. That's the story. And I was like, it's a bit kind of gruesome. But I think like what underlies that is like, okay, will you surrender? Will you just totally surrender to the will of God, no matter what? And that was kind of Abraham's test. It was like, well, will you actually do this and trust, even if it doesn't make sense? So I guess that's the true meaning of that story. Just demonstrate in an extreme way, because it was sacrificing his, killing his son, which you'd go, well, why would God do that? And maybe he misinterpreted the voice. I don't know, but I think if you see that story correctly, it's like it's saying, well, will you surrender no matter what the personal cost is, and listen to this voice? And he did, and then he was, then he became the founder of the Jewish people, and he was guided to leave his home, and he went to Canaan, as it was then called, and that was the start of Israel and Israelites and stuff. So yeah, it's all there to help us to get to that point where we say, okay, not my will but thy will. I mean, think what Yeshua did. Okay, there's a crucifixion thing that I have to go through. So again, like a huge act of surrender. Not my will but thy will be done. And that's what we've been asked to, not necessarily to that extreme, that we have to be crucified. He said, well, you're not asked to repeat my experiences, fortunately, because if we're all asked to be crucified, it's a big ask. He did it kind of for us to demonstrate the principle, but we'll be asked to do what we can do, to let everything go and surrender, and that might seem like a big sacrifice to our egos. But it's to realize that actually you're not losing anything by listening to the voice of pure formless awareness, because it's trying to give you everything. It's trying to give you your true self and your true home, being a state of pure formless awareness back, and awaken you from the nightmare of separation. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, it just seems to me that sometimes when the guidance is doesn't make any sense, it's true guidance, because if it's linear and sequential, that would be ego saying, oh yeah, that's a good plan. But it's when it comes to you and you go, why would I do that? And then do it, and then later on you see it together. But at the time, it's like you've got to have real trust. If something random comes along, you just do it.
Yeah. I've had a few events like that in my life. You don't really know why. I mean, there was. I'll give one example. It's sort of, I guess there was a reason I could rationalize it, but that wasn't the real reason. I knew that. So about 11 years ago, 2011, I get this email, and you get, even then you were getting like loads of emails, just invitations, newsletters, and this email lands, and for some reason I open it. I don't know why. It was from a organization called the EBBF, they specialize in like values in business, and I'd been working on a model to develop values in business and help companies to actually manage by values by measuring it. So I kind of spent the last year or so refining that, and then this email drops in, and it's like I read it, and it was about a conference that was happening in I think it was in May. It was happening in the end of June, so a month or two away, in Geneva, Switzerland. And I read the email, and immediately it was just so intuitive. It was like, I have to be there. It was like and it wasn't rational. And then I was like, well, I have to be there because I guess I've got a model, and South Africa's not quite ready for it, so maybe if I go there, something will happen. So there was a kind of a rational justification, but I did know that that wasn't the real. I was like, I don't really know why. It's something else. I guess any way we know is if we find out. And at the time, I didn't have the money. I mean, it's not cheap to do international travel, and it's like, well, I don't know how this is going to happen. And then, within a few weeks, the money miraculously kind of appeared. And I ended up going, and that completely changed my life, because the end of that conference, I'd spoken, I'm not shy. I was like sharing my stuff, and the guy who was the head of the foundation obviously noticed me, and he came up to me, oh no, he said, I like your passion, and I love the old Swiss guy. And he said, I might be able to help you, with your project. Because I'm head of a foundation that funds innovative projects in Africa. So come and see me. Are you still around? And I designed the trip, so I was like, yeah, I do actually have some extra time. So I thought, just like all of it, you just think it was all guided. And then I went and saw him and spoke to him about my model for most of the time. But right at the tail end of it, I mentioned something else. It's like a friend of mine who's trying to raise money for a study he was trying to do in Namibia to see if Namibia could generate power through solar energy. And so I just like dropped that in at the very tail end of the conversation, like 5 minutes. He says, that sounds interesting, put us in touch. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not thinking much about it. Anyway, within 2-3 months, that had led to a grant of $75,000 that got given to my friend to do the work, which then led to the formation of an oil and gas business about a year later, which I then got involved in, and that brought me over to the UK, and that's how I met Deborah, and had my son, and that's why I'm here. So you kind of go, it was all that one email. If I hadn't listened, I could have gone, it's just ridiculous. I don't need to do that. But there was such an intuitive call. And who could say how that would all play out at the time? There's just no way you could logically predict any of that. It was just like, okay, it all just happened. But that's the thing with intuition. It just tells you what you need to do now. It doesn't necessarily say, well, this is why, and here's it won't. This is why, and here's the whole path laid out for you. You're just like, no, do that now. And do you listen to the impulse or not? And that is to be intuitive enough to go, okay, that's genuine, that's coming from spirit, and recognize, what's not, what's coming from ego. And that's why we do the mind training. It's like, okay, well, they're different voices and they have a different frequency. So can you discern? Because you can have impulses from the ego as well, but they feel different. It's a different quality, and it's something you just have to learn to know. It's difficult to even put in words. But I knew the moment I saw that email, it was like I knew I needed to be there, and then it happened. So I didn't consciously manifest it. It was just told to me, and I was like, okay, well, miraculously the way got opened up, and that was designed for my whole path unfolded because of that one email. Now imagine if I'd never read that email. You just kind of go, isn't it so weird that your whole life can turn on an email if it's the right email? But that's how it goes. So that's Iona. Hi, Iona. Can you hear us? Can't see you. Okay. I don't know if she's on her phone or. Oh, there we go.
Hiya.
Hi there.
Hi.
Oh, how are you today?
Better.
Good.
Yeah, much better, thanks.
Hmm.
So it says, okay. Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful day. I feel full of resolve, actually. Yeah.
Good.
Hooray.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
These dark periods don't last.
No. No, that's right. But I'm vigilant for them sort of trailing in sort of wispy ways
Mm,
into my consciousness and undermining. But today, I feel much more vigilant for that and much more up.
mm.
Yeah.
I think that's the benefit, if you go through like an episode like that, it's like, well, you come out the other side and you've learned something. You've gone, okay, so been through that, and next time, can I be more vigilant? Can I not allow myself to get sucked so deeply into it, and stop it. And so you've learned something, and you've grown, and hopefully more able to cope with another ego onslaught, which there probably will be. That's how it goes.
Mhm.
You keep trying, but each time you get through it, you're like, okay, well, it's like you've just increased your capacity to deal with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was in a bit deep.
Could tell, but hopefully the call and then whatever other spiritual practice you did
Yeah,
helped to shift it.
yes, that's right. I brought in many things to help. Oh, I just to see somebody calling.
Okay, no problem. Put yourself on mute. So yeah, shall we have a look at today's quote? There we go. So if you want to read the quote and the first couple of paragraphs, Sally.
You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness, letting go. Today's quote is from early in the text of A Course in Miracles, clearly stating that one and only means that you can find peace when you are seemingly living in this world. Only complete forgiveness, or translated in our alternative art of letting go language, letting go of all the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. As Yeshua calls the ego's thoughts and emotions in the introduction to the text will bring you the peace of God, or in our alternative art of letting go language, the peace of perfect love that surpasses all understanding, as Paul referred to in his letter to the Philippines.
Which is this onto bottom here. And peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guide your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So if you translate that, the peace of perfect love, which transcends all understanding or surpasses all understanding, will guide your hearts and your minds in the presence of the true self as demonstrated by Yeshua. That's how I translate that. Okay, so the presence is coming from the true self. The misunderstanding, of even people like Paul, he was, he's a genuine teacher and did a lot of good, but he mistook Christ Jesus for the personal self. It was still this is a person, and he's the personal savior, when in fact Christ is the true self, and Yeshua is just an embodiment of that, the example of someone who's totally identified with that true self. So in the true self, as demonstrated by this man Yeshua. So he was a way shower, showing the way to peace through identification with the one self, the true self. And only that way is going to work. That's what he was saying. So passes all understanding. So the understanding is the ego's rational intellectual understanding. It tries to make sense of things, it tries to frame things and put them into some kind of linear framework. Say, okay, well, it's got to make sense within the ego's framework from birth to death. And because this is, transcendent knowledge, it doesn't it doesn't meet the understanding of the ego. It requires higher understanding, which comes when you let go. When you actually go, I don't understand. How can I understand this world really? I thought I knew what it was about, but actually I recognize that I don't know at all. And then the true understanding and the peace that comes from that starts to rising in your mind. Okay.
Yeah, what was coming to me that if Christ is an embodiment of true self, then there's lots of embodies of other things that are not true self. So there's bodies in the world embodying hate or, I don't know, whatever, fear.
No. Hate, anger, fear. Just watch the nightly news and you'll see it all being embodied for you.
That's what I was just thinking. They're actually embodying qualities that are not ideal or not compatible with our true self. So it's quite an interesting idea. And I just tweaked something inside of me that we're aiming to embody true self, but all these other bodies are demonstrating something else. That's really interesting.
And they're helping you indirectly to see, what's correct and what's not. You watch it with awareness. Let's say you watch the news or you're watching a movie with violence and whatever else the ego's made up. But you watch it with awareness. You go, okay, so I'm seeing the manifestation here of a thought system, right? It's quite helpful to think of the sort of movie idea or characters in a computer game. It's like the program is kind of running it, and what's actually driving the program is the ego most of the time, and which is a thought system. It's the operating system that's now directing the thoughts, words, and actions of these characters in the dream, of these characters playing their roles in the movie. It's all scripted by the ego. And so you see someone, getting angry and violent. You see someone else being fearful and the victim. You see someone else, with jealousy and all of this. And it's just, this is the program of the ego of separation now manifesting through those bodies. Well, that's kind of helpful because you can see it then. If it was never manifested, how would you see its effect? How would you know that this thought system is actually not true, that it's dysfunctional, doesn't work? So the projection mechanism that the ego has invented to perpetuate itself becomes the way that it reveals itself, and that you can then see it very clearly and make a choice against it and let it go.
So somebody like Trump is an embodiment of the parts of us that we don't like.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic teacher, just in the reverse. So was Hitler. So was all the tyrants and dictators. Stalin and Idi Amin and all these crazy Robert Mugabe, and there's been many, because you look at the extreme then of the ego's thought system that these people embody, and you go, that is just totally insane. There's no way I can, and look at its destructive effect when it's magnified out like that. So there's no way that I want any part of this, because if I have a little part of a Robert Mugabe or Donald Trump in me, then I have to accept the entire thought system. See, then I'm essentially saying, yes, I agree with them and that thought system, that modus operandi. And so you have to make a choice, a very clear-cut choice. No, I don't want that. I want something else. You can't kind of go, well, I have a little bit of Donald Trump in me, a little bit of that ego grandiosity and pride and arrogance and cheating and not being honest and all of that, but no, I'll still be my true self. You can't. It's one or the other. So they're very helpful, just in reverse. You can learn from people in reverse and say, no, I don't want to be like that. And I'm very grateful for, like, think of my father. Said, I don't want to be like that. That's a very good lesson at a young age. To go, okay, I've got to make a clear choice to go, to go the other way. So that's a gift. It means we've never really got on, but that's okay. the Spirit's not saying you're going to get on with everyone in this world. In fact, if you do, there's a problem. If you get on with people who are in the ego, it's problematic, because you must be agreeing with them. So you're not going to agree with everyone. In fact, if you go on the spiritual path, you're going to end up disagreeing with probably the majority of humanity, because most people are in the ego's thought system, and so they don't think the way you do. This is why the mystics and the saints and the avatars are always outliers. They don't fit into the social construct very well. But because of that, because they stand out, they can be the way showers and the leaders, because they represent a clear-cut example of how to do it differently. Like Yeshua and Buddha, they lived their lives differently. They made very different decisions, from the normal. Buddha left his home, he had this cushy life as a prince, and he said, no, I'm giving that all up and I'm becoming a ascetic. Now, how many people would do that? Most people, yeah, great, I never have to work, everything's provided, I've got servants, the best food, I have a wife that's provided for me. Hey, happy days. I can just chill out and have a life of luxury and leisure for the rest of my days. And he made a completely different choice. So they're all, Yeshua had, suppose, a sort of fairly normal life as a carpenter, and he had to give that up. Okay, I'm going to go into the desert for 40 days and nights and fast, and then leave that and teach the truth and turn tables up in the temple and eventually be crucified. They did some stuff that's way out of the norm, which is why they were teachers and way showers. So we've been called on to do the same thing in our own way. Obviously, doesn't mean you deliberately upset people, but if the majority agrees with you, and then you're on the wrong track, because that's the ego. Majority in this world, that default thought system is the ego's, and so you have to go against that and contradict it and stand against it in what you stand for and what you live for, in order to be true to the Spirit.
It just shows us over and over again how most people would say they'd like a really lovely house and lots of money and not have to work and all that sort of thing, but just shows us over and over again that doesn't bring the happiness, does it? That's not the happiness that is the deep true happiness, and that the actual truth of it is it's quite a challenging journey to be in your true self and be wholly authentic and be fully in your power and all that. It's not an easy journey. It's not as easy, it's easier in some way to get the house, the family, the job, but it's more challenging, the journey that we're taking, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if you play the game right, you've got a little bit of intelligence. It's not that hard. I could have gone into the corporate world. I could have, I was intelligent enough. I had a degree. I could have carried on, done an accounting degree, finished my accounting. Just followed the program and would have ended up as, a director of some company and earning a nice salary and blah de blah. 2.5 kids in the suburbs, and off we go. I couldn't see. I was just like, no, I just can't. I can't concentrate. It just doesn't feel right at all. And so then you take the road less traveled, and you go, no, I'm going to give that up and go play professional squash instead, and make it a different decision that runs counter to the normal, and that's what determines your life, the decisions you make. And do you have the courage in those moments of decision to go against the grain? If I hadn't had the courage to do that, my life would have been very different. So I'm going, okay, well, that's kind of where it's going, and I kind of have to do that because that's what everyone expects, and I don't want to rock the boat. So, okay, I'm not really that happy about it, but I'll carry on and I'll do it. And then you put yourself in bondage, don't you, to feelings and intentions for your life, which are egoic, and the true self is submerged.
Mm.
And I guess fortunately I had enough awareness to go, no, I'm not, I'm not going down that path. But it does take, I mean, it wasn't easy. It's like, what are you doing? You're messing up your life, destroying. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I know I'm not. I know, but like, you have to trust that inner voice that's saying, no, no, this is, this is the right path for you. And not listen to all the voices of the ego that populate this world, which come in many forms, parents, friends, family, who are not necessarily listening to that voice. They're listening to the voice of the ego, the worldly voice that says, do this and do this and do this and follow the rules and you'll be safe. Generally, unfortunately, parents, that's what they default to. What will keep you safe in the body? Not, okay, well, go and follow your bliss. And yeah, that might mean you have some challenges, but that's how you're going to grow. So that's what I want for you. So if it's tough and you grow, then great. I'd rather that than you had some dead end job and you weren't happy, but it all looked good on the level of form. But it requires someone who's evolved and undertaken their own hero's journey to understand that. If you haven't done the journey yourself, if you haven't gone out of the known world, how can you tell anyone else about it? You can't. So there's if you've never gone out of that known world and someone is now wanting to go out of the known world, what you're going to do? You're going to go, no, no, that's very scary. You can't go there, stay in the known world. And so that these people then become the threshold guardians. They're trying to stop us from going on the journey and awakening. And you have to have the discernment as the hero to know, okay, this isn't really helping me. They're there to test me, but I need to overcome this. You remember in the Matrix. I mean, Matrix is just classic hero's journey. There's all the elements of it. You remember when he's late for work because he's gone and seen Trinity at the club the night before and he's overslept. So he gets hauled into the director's office, and the director's saying, Stranderson, so you think you're special? You think the rules somehow don't apply to you? Well, I can assure you, you're mistaken. This is the threshold guardian. And actually, the truth is they don't apply to him. He is special. He is the one. And that voice is telling him, no, you just, Mr. Ordinary and go back into your box and don't go out of it. So that's the threshold guardian, which he couldn't listen to, otherwise he would never become the hero and undertaken the hero's journey.
I used to work in a bank, and everybody thought that was a really good job, well paid, cheap financial stuff. And when I left that, everyone thought I was mad to do that. And they just, majority of my family thought I was just awkward by not doing that. Mm-hmm. And that just becomes the pattern, oh, you're so awkward, Sally, why don't you just fit in?
I get the same thing all the time. Why don't you just fit in? Just do what everyone does. I'm like, well, I can't, because if something's in my, I mean, I'm not deliberately trying to be awkward, but if something is truly in my heart, and you have to honor that. You can't not listen to that voice, because if you don't, then you're suppressing your true self, and that has terrible consequences. How can you be happy if you're not listening to your true self? Now some other self, you're this imposter, and you have no mind of your own. You're a puppet to the will of the collective, which is the ego. It's now saying do this and directing, and you're just a puppet and a slave. And that's how can you have any kind of happiness, peace, joy, self-respect if you allow that? So it's kind of hero's journey or nothing, really. What else is there? You're either going to awaken and go on this journey, or you're going to stay as a puppet and a slave of the ego in the known world. And is that really a choice? Seems to be a choice. I guess you can choose the known world. Most people do, but the hero, there's something in you in this lifetime that's saying, okay, this is your time. You need to awaken, and you can't not hear that call. And why do some people hear it and others don't? I don't know. I think everyone has something, but some people hear it much more strongly and they're willing to listen to it, and others don't. They listen to the voice of the ego. It's too strong and they just stay in the known. Why? Who knows? Yeah, well, we can't say. Maybe it's many, many lifetimes of, staying in the known world. And finally, you're like, okay, enough now. This is the one I'm going to finally get it. But one thing's for sure, if you're on the hero's journey, this is not the journey that everyone is taking. You will be an outlier in the society, and that's good. You've got to just embrace that. That's I'm comfortable with that. I mean, I am an outlier, and I don't try and fit in. I don't try and conform. I don't try and not conform, because that would be just for the sake of it. But I listen to my true self. And I honor that, and if it says I must do something, then that's what I got to do. And often it goes counter to all the ego's programs, family, friends, financial responsibility, all of these rules that seem to operate here. Well, it's all of those can be bent and broken, because none of them are true. Okay, so where are we? Let's go back here. So have we read once again, Yesha couldn't be more explicit? Did you read that, Sally?
I think I did.
Oh. So that leads us into the lesson. Actually, let's read it again. There's some good stuff there. Iona, do you want to read those 2 paragraphs, please?
I'm just having a problem. I've made it all absolutely tiny.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Are you on your computer?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Side mode, come on.
I can expand it a bit more.
I know. There's a bar that keeps popping up in front of the expand all.
Okay, well, never mind. Well, Sally, you read it again.
You play with technology.
Yeah.
Once again, Yeshua couldn't be more explicit about the only way to experience peace consistently and awaken from the nightmare of your peace being continuously disturbed by people, circumstances, and events in the seemingly external world of form. The only question is, will you listen to him and be willing to let go as continuously as the ego, which, remember, is your stubborn belief in separation, tempts you to believe in separation in whatever form it takes? Or will you give in to temptation and indulge in separate and separating thoughts and emotions instead?
Oh, so that's just another way of stating the choice. Do you give in to the temptation? Because it is a temptation. The ego comes in and it goes, oh, this person's done this, and there's temptation to judge them and hold a grievance, and we all know that. Do you indulge that, or you just go, no, I'm not going down that path, not one step? So as the ego tempts you with these ideas, you just remember the truth and say, no, I'm not going there, because that thought is not a helpful thought. That feeling, thinking that thought is not helpful at all. So why would I take one step down that path? And that's the vigilance you referred to. So when the ego tempts you to go into any negative state, you just you catch it at the start and you go, no, why do I want to do that? That's not helpful. Why do I want to be sad or angry or depressed? No, I'm not going to allow the thoughts and the emotions to develop, because that's it has to develop into this pattern, doesn't it? So it starts with a thought, and then there's emotion, and then thought leads to more emotion, and if you keep doing that, sometimes within seconds and a few minutes, you can be in quite a hole mentally and emotionally. But if you just caught it at the start, the moment you think the first thought, a judgmental thought, let's say, a condemning thought, an attacking thought, the moment you think that, you catch it and you go, no, I choose the peace of God instead. You apply the lesson. the peace of God is shining in me now, well, that, the peace of God is shining that thought away. It's not. And that's the power of these lessons, is you bring them into those dark thoughts, and then those thoughts have to be undone. They can't sustain in the presence of a statement of truth like the peace of God or the peace of perfect love is shining in me now. So they just help you, these lessons just help you make the right choice over and over and over again in the situations where you're tempted. And if you keep doing that day after day after day, progressively and systematically you're undoing the ego, and you profoundly changing your mind. Your whole thought system is changing. This is a mind training technology that is brilliant. He's really thought it out well, and if you apply it, of course, you have to do it. But if you do it, it's really the fast track to awakening. Okay, so that brings us to the lesson then. Should we have a look at today's lesson? I've actually done some translation.
You need a lot.
So ask Iona, can you read now, or you sorted your screen out?
Yeah. The peace of God is shining in me now. Alternatively, the peace of perfect love is shining in me now. I will be still and let the earth be still along with me. And in that stillness, we will find the peace of God. It is within my heart, which witnesses to God himself. Alternatively, I will be still and let the earth be still along with me. And in that stillness, I will find the peace of perfect love. It is within my heart that witnesses to perfect love itself.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
It's very powerful to be reminded again that actually in my stillness, I have the infinite capacity to still everything along with me, that it all emanates from me, from my upset or my stillness. That nothing happens without this say so. And I think that's what's really happened to me just overnight, is that it's my choice. I'm in charge. I'm in charge. No, that's wrong. I make the decision.
You make the decision which guide you're going to listen to.
Sorry, I now have a little 7-year-old neighbor knocking at the door. Hang on.
Okay. So any thoughts on that, Sally? Today's lesson?
The shining in me part kind of grabbed my attention when I was reading it this morning, and I like the idea of it shining through me.
Shining in me and shining through me. It's like this radiance shining out into the world.
And I find
to just bless people with the presence of that.
Yeah, people can see it, but they don't know what it is, and they'll say things like, "Oh, you're looking well," or some human comment, and I know they're not talking about that. I know they're talking about the light. Like it can't be computed, but it can be felt.
Yeah, it surpasses all understanding. It's very difficult to frame it and say, oh, well, you're looking well, or it's a presence, which everyone can perceive that, and then if they're kind of open to it, then they'll respond like, I want more of that. So, and they kind of want to interact or hang out with you or engage because they want some of what you have. Yeah. And then there are people who are very in the ego, and that'll get their hackles up. They'll be like, oh, this is a threat. I can sense the presence, and this is a threat to me. And then there can be apparent conflict.
about 4 years ago, I was out dog walking somewhere I don't normally go, and there was this woman in the field, and she was just shining. She had this lovely light around her, and I said to the person I was walking with, "Whoa, look, I want some of that." And she said, "Oh, I know her." You know her? How random is that? You know, of all the hundreds of people that live around here, on the other side of town, and she just happened to know her. He said, "Oh, I'll put her in contact with you." And this lady, you know, she really glowed, and so she was somebody that does this energy alignment method that she introduced me to, and I understood how she could shine like that. And yeah, just her light led me down a completely different path that made me study and learn in a different way. That's no doubt led me here. So yeah, shining light does call people, the right people in the right.
And she didn't do anything. She was just standing there, presumably, just kind of in the presence, and you know, you saw it. And then, you know, you went like, so she was the living example. You said, "I want some of that," and then you're open to listening to whatever she's got to say.
And she told me what she did. She said she was doing this energy alignment method course, and I thought, oh, that's not for me. How else can I get the light to shine through? But then it took me about a year before I went, oh, go on then, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
So that was a hero's journey calling that I ignored the first time and took the second time.
Exactly, yeah. So that's often what happens. You refuse the call first up, and then it comes back, and the second or third time around, you listen. It's interesting to see how the archetype plays out in your own life. Actually, you know, Joseph Campbell's onto something, because it does seem like that's actually how it works.
And I find it very comforting to know that it's okay to say no the first time, but it's like a seed that's been planted. And then when it comes around again, I tend to be more comfortable with it the second time round, or whenever it's around again. So, you know,
you're just not quite ready the first time around. I remember reading Eckhart Tolle's, I got it as a free download, the first chapter of Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, like way back, early 2000, just after it was written. I remember the first time I read it, I was like, okay, you know, kind of, it didn't really, no, I read it and I was like, yeah, whatever, you know. It didn't sort of penetrate. And then I read it about a year later. I was like, what? What's he saying? What? It was like suddenly it dawned on me the profundity of what he was saying. And then I just remember reading the book. It was like every chapter was like, oh, I can't wait to get into the next chapter and just like immerse myself in this presence. But I just wasn't ready the first time. It was like still too much in the mind and in the future, and it's interesting. But you know, the spirit never gives up, so there's always another chance, fortunately.
That's good.
Okay, so any other thoughts about, and how about I'm not a body, I'm free? Given your letter. In fact, Sally, do you want to tell Iona about your letter? Might inspire her to do something similar, who knows?
I woke up this morning, Iona, and just picked up pen and paper and started writing, and I didn't know what I was writing. And I was writing a letter to my ego body, and just told my ego body that, you know, we've had a nice time together. I don't need to hang out in this way anymore, that I'm going to be my true self now. And it felt really strange. And afterwards I thought, I don't know which part of me was talking to which part of me, but, you know, all right then. Bye, body illusion.
Illusion.
Do you want to read it?
That is inspiring.
Will you read it again for us, Simon?
Again, all right. Dear ego body, I know you are an illusion in my mind. I appreciate the learnings you've brought me. I get the sense we could play this game forever and ever. I feel it's true for me to let this game go now. I know who I am. I am not you. I am me. It was strange believing I was a body. In truth, I am awareness, formless love. I've decided to let go of my illusion of being you, the body. I wish now to live as pure formless awareness through you and not of you. And let's enjoy the truth of who I am.
Hmm.
It's wonderful. That's so
Will
beautiful.
you post that on the group? Do you mind? I mean, you don't have to, but
Yeah, right.
it's I think that's quite inspiring. Potentially very helpful because really you actually are. That's what you're saying. The decision is okay. Thank you. It's been great. We've had a seeming partnership for my entire life. But now, I'm ready to let it go. Right? So you die before you die. I'm ready to let go of the identification with the body, even though the body will continue. The body's not going to die yet, but there's no identification with it anymore. And so the letter's like, okay, well, farewell. I'm willing to do this, and putting it in writing means that intention is much more powerfully stated. So.
Oh, I've just realised because it feels odd. It feels like I didn't write it, but I just realised it won't have been me, Sally, having written it, would it? Because
No.
the ego. So I'm talking to that part of me from another part. All right, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So it's the higher self, which does feel a bit, it's different. It's not the normal, the normal self that you're used to. That's writing that, and so you kind of, well, what part of that is that? It's a bit unfamiliar, but you're just starting to get used to it and go, oh, okay, actually, this is. I mean, if you think about it, if you've denied that self, that presence for so long, now it starts coming back in. Part of your mind, the ego's going, this is just strange and weird and unfamiliar. I don't, no, this isn't who I am, because it's so used to, its false self that's constructed to replace that. So it does feel a little weird to start with, but like any new experience, if you persevere with it kind of becomes a bit. So eventually, this is just normal. My true self that feels really right, and then the ego feels really wrong. And as you take these little steps, you write letters like this and whatever other spiritual practices, you're learning that more and more. So yeah, please share it if you feel so inspired. I'm sure other people will benefit from it.
And the ego part of me goes, well, I'd change a few words in that.
No, I think just as it was was great.
Yeah, it is
Because you
great.
didn't really write it, so to edit it, it's like it came through in an inspired state. Well, who's editing it? Is the question.
Ego would be editing it, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh gosh.
Who's doing the editing now? So then it comes in via the back door.
But that's what we're doing in the Course in Miracles, aren't we? We're editing it so it's more comfortable with our ego.
No, hopefully not. Hopefully we're editing it so that the language is more revealing of the truth. That's the purpose of it. I mean, I suppose ultimately one shouldn't have any, God. The word doesn't really matter. God versus perfect love. At the highest level doesn't matter. But then this course is not designed for people at the highest level, is it? It's set within the ego framework for people who are still battling with the ego and trying to overcome it. So we're trying to use words which are just tools that are helpful. Well, why make it more difficult than it needs to be? So the word's more helpful than substitute it, because the word is not sacred. I mean, words are just symbols, twice removed from reality, as Yeshua says. So the word itself, God or any word, Holy Spirit, is not sacred. No word is sacred. It's just it's either a helpful or an unhelpful pointer to the truth. For some people, God might be a better pointer. Okay, well then read the original. If that works for you and it opens you up to an experience more than perfect love does, then by all means, use it. But from what I've seen, in these sessions, it seems like the translation opens what you're pointing to. Otherwise, I would have given this up long ago. And gone, okay, there's a lot of work. There's no point. The original is fine. But there's parts of it that I think I think it doesn't. The language doesn't do justice to the content often, what it's pointing to, and it turns people away from what is, this amazing teaching that could really change their life, and that's a shame. It doesn't need to be that way. So, and I guess the question is, what are you going to do about it? Okay, well, we all have our calling in life. I guess mine is to translate the whole book and create a system that teaches anyone. Anyone can now access this, because we all understand love. Perfect love, it's a name, it's a word that is universal. So is God, I suppose, but God has all these religious connotations. Depending on which religion you believe in, it's going to have a different version of it. Love is more generic and universal. Okay, so any more thoughts on the lesson? I'm not a body, I'm free. I'm still as perfect love extended me. Nope.
No.
Okay. So shall we do a meditation on this now, and then go into the text? How does that sound? How much time does everyone have?
Till 2:30.
Oh, me too.
Okay. So we've got about maybe half an hour for the text. Okay, so let's do a 15-minute med, and then we'll go into have a look at the text.
Okay.
So just making yourself comfortable, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, back straight. Cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. Start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle. Lock the energy in, draw the energy up the spine. To your heart center, put one hand on your heart, connecting with your heart space. Just feel into wherever you're feeling. There's the thoughts, the emotions, any related sensations in the body. Breathe into all of that. So take another breath in. Have a sense of bringing in light, spacious awareness into this feeling, thought feeling, emotion. Immediately that happens, you feel it dissipating a little bit, the disidentification with it. And now to help you further, say, I'm not a body, I'm free. I'm still as God or perfect love created me or extended me. So exhale. And just let go with the exhale. Let go of all resistance, all negativity. Just blowing it away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. Just rest here in the peace and the stillness. Say, peace of God and the peace of perfect love is shining in me now. The peace of perfect love is shining in me now. And feel this presence of peace and love. arising in you. Breathe in, deep inhale. Feel every pore, every cell, every muscle, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is shining with this peace. It's infusing you. Feel it in your heart. Be still, says Yeshua, and let the earth be still along with you. In that stillness, you'll find the peace of perfect love. So breathe it into your heart, witnesses to perfect love itself. Peace is inextricably part of this perfect love. So feel the peace of perfect love. Pure formless awareness arising in your mind, in your heart. And sink into it. Exhale. Breathe out and just let go of any obstacles to this peace, any blocks to the awareness of love's presence, Yeshua calls them. Introduction to the text. Release them and sink into the peace that lies beyond them, underlies them. There's nothing else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, let the breath breathe you in and out through the nose. There's the air flowing into the nostrils and out of the nostrils. Feel that process. Bring your attention into the breath, you quiet your mind. And this quietness, this stillness, peace of perfect love arises, it shines in you now. Say, the peace of perfect love is shining in me now. I'm still, I will be still, and I let the earth be still along with me. And in that stillness, I will find the peace of perfect love. It is within my heart that witnesses to perfect love itself. And so I am not a body. I am free. All body identification. I am still. I remain and I am still. I'm at rest, quiet. It's double meaning in the word still. I'm still, I remain, I'm quiet as God or perfect love created or extended me. Feel that extension out from you. Nothing else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just rest in this quiet, still, calm, peaceful presence. A couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence. If any thoughts arise, disturb this quiet, peaceful stillness, just look at them. And like Yeshua, when he calmed the storm, an event in the Bible where he walked out onto stormy water and calmed the water. Just calm it all down, so let it all go. Any turbulating thoughts and emotions, you release them, and just let it all go and sink into the peace. Let it arise and shine in you now. So the peace of perfect love is shining in you now. There's nothing else. So it is said, so it is done. And then experience this for another couple of minutes of deep, contemplative silence. And so just gently coming back to an awareness of the body and the breath, and your senses and the world, and on the count of 3, open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises, the chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Top of the inhale, scan your mind again, observe any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on for you, particularly anything that feels negative or limiting, contracted, constricting. And just let it go. With the exhale, blowing it all out. Dark cloud leaving you. Notice how the energy subsides back down the front channel of your body, coming to rest in your lower stomach and your groin. Count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down. to the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling, touching your hands, subtle flow of air on your skin maybe. Breathe in again. Notice any smell in your nose, maybe a taste in your mouth. Notice what you're hearing. It's very still, calm state still, so coming back into the world of perception, but you're rooted in the peace of perfect love that passes all understanding. So the way you can continue, even as you open your eyes. So 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, observe the various objects in the room. Notice that it doesn't matter what you're looking at, let your eyes randomly rest on a few things. Your underlying peace is the same. Your awareness doesn't really change, irrespective of what you're looking at. And so that is the peace of God, peace of perfect love that passes all understanding. It's not related to perception at all. It doesn't depend on anything external. You realize that peace is independent and unmoved by anything in the world of perception, the world of form. And then the peace of God is shining in you, no matter where you go and what you do. So just anchor the state in, notice the peace, and the intention to stay in it. So I'll help you do that. Practice today's lesson frequently, Escher, once every hour. Just bring it to mind briefly, or listen to a breath break that I've sent you as a 90-second one. Or follow the instructions I put in the email and Telegram message to top you up with this peaceful presence. So that brings us to the end of the meditation. And we can now go into some text reading. Okay, so let's have a look at today's text. We've done a bit of translation, which will speed things up a bit. So this one is section 5 of chapter 25, called The State of Sinlessness, or translated, The State of Innocence. So I'm aware we've only got half an hour, so let's just go straight into the translation, shall we? Just want to read paragraph 1.
The state of innocence is merely this: the whole desire to attack is gone, and so there is no reason to perceive the extension of pure formless awareness of perfect love as other than he is. The need for guilt is gone because it has no purpose and is meaningless without the goal of sin. Attack and sin are bound as one illusion, each the cause and aim and justifier of the other. Each is meaningless alone, but seems to draw meaning from the other. Each depends upon the other for whatever sense it seems to have, and no one could believe in one unless the other were the truth, for each attests the other must be true. Wow. So in sentence 2, he's saying that he binds sin and guilt together, and then he says it in many different ways in 3, 4, 5, and 6. The whole desire to attack is gone. Yes.
Yeah. So they're part of one thought system. Cause and aim and justify the other. So sin, if we have a look at our diagram here quickly, you can see how this all works quite nicely. Course manual. So you have the belief in sin, which is the belief that you really have separated, that you have done the impossible, and you have some kind of separate will, and that underlies what underlies that is guilt, because you really think you've done this. You have actually separated, and you must have destroyed God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness in order to have a separate identity. So he's making the connection between guilt and sin, and then he's saying that attack and sin are inextricably linked. So sin seems to cause fear, false expectation of punishment appearing real, which requires that you believe in attack. Something is attacking you, it's going to punish you. And now you fear that attack from an external God, or that gets projected onto the world, and then you fear attack from other people and things. And then you might try and attack in self-defense, or you try and attack to project your guilt outwards. So guilt and sin require that, well, they're very uncomfortable, so the ego tries to get rid of the guilt and sin by attacking someone else in the form of blame, accusation, blame, really the offloading of the guilt and sin onto someone else. And so the sin and the guilt seem to justify the attack. And then, if attack seems to be present, and you've actually think you've attacked someone, then you feel guilty for that attack, and the cycle's perpetuated. And so that's what he's saying. It's a vicious cycle. It's just feeding on itself.
Yeah.
So they're meaningless alone, but seem to draw meaning from the other. So it's kind of self-perpetuating. In isolation, if you really look at this, sin is meaningless because you never did separate. So how can that be meaningful? It's not possible. And therefore attack must be ridiculous and insane. But if you get caught up in the cycle, you believe in this, and then attack seems to be justified, and then attack seems to perpetuate the guilt and the sin, you get caught up in this, and it becomes a very deep pattern that can take you into very dark places, and you forget that actually it has no justification, because the idea of guilt and sin is false. Guilty and sinful for what? You never did what you think you did. Each depends on the other. So it's a self-perpetuating, self-reinforcing thought system. Within itself, it seems to hold. Guilt and sin seem to justify fear and attack, and those in turn justify more guilt and sin. But all of that is false, because there is no underpinning, there's no justification for guilt and sin in the first place, because the separation never really happened. You see how it all logically follows from, yes, I'm a separate self, or no, I'm one with pure formless awareness. Each thought system has its logic, which then follows from the premise that it's based on. No one could believe in one unless the other were the truth. Each attests the other must be true. So it's self-reinforcing.
Yeah.
Okay, any thoughts on that, or shall we move on?
Let's move on.
So Sally, if you want to read number 2.
Attack makes your true self your enemy, and pure formless awareness of perfect love along with it.
Sorry, just managed to delete.
Must you not be afraid with enemies like these? And must you not be fearful of yourself? For you have hurt yourself and made yourself your enemy. And now you must believe you are not you, but something alien to yourself, and something else, or something to be feared instead of loved. Who would attack whatever he perceives as wholly innocent? And who, because he wishes to attack, can fail to think he must be guilty to maintain the wish while wanting innocence? For who could see the pure formless awareness of perfect love as innocent and wish him dead? Your true self stands before you each time you look upon your companion. He is not gone because your eyes are closed. But what is there to see by searching for your awakener, seeing it through sightless eyes? But what is there to see by searching for your awakener through sightless eyes? Don't get that last bit.
Neither do I. I've read this before and I don't know what the sightless eyes are.
Okay, so what is there to see by searching for your awakener, which is translated from savior, seeing it through sightless eyes?
Should it be what is there to perceive?
Yeah, what is there to but then he uses the eyes analogy, so that's why maybe we should keep the seeing, I think, because it kind of relates to the eyes. What is there to see by searching for your awakener? And maybe we just make that simpler, with sightless eyes. I think that's clearer. What do you think?
I don't get the sightless though.
No, nor do I.
What is really saying is that your eyes are sightless.
Oh, right, because we don't see through them. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not really seeing anything. They're seeing an illusion.
Yeah.
Sightless eyes. They have no true sight. The spiritual sight is what he's referring to. So we think this is seeing with the body's eyes, but it's that our eyes are actually sightless because they obscure the truth of pure formless awareness, which is what spiritual vision reveals. So yeah, it's a reference to that. Sightless is spiritually sightless. How about we could put that in? Spiritually
sightless.
Yeah. Because if you didn't get it, then there might be other people who don't as well. Spiritually sightless eyes. So what can you really find by searching with the body's eyes, is what he's saying. If you're not a body, how can the body's eyes tell you anything?
Mm-hmm.
So what came up for me while I was reading it was, because I run this program for people that have a larger body than they wish and feel very trapped in the body and they want to feel free. So as I was reading it, I was thinking, yeah, well, that's kind of what I see, that people take their body to be an enemy and they're fearful of it as though it's making them unhappy. And then they attack the body, they really attack the body mentally, verbally, and forgetting that it's love and feeling guilty. They feel guilty about what they're doing. I can see that, and that's why they're attacking. But I'm finding it quite difficult. Not difficult. I find it intriguing blending this with the course, because I started out doing the course, we're not a body, we're free, as the reasoning for why we were doing what we were doing. The more I do the course, the more I'm like, it feels like where somebody is trapped in the body, feeling guilty and attacking their body, is a long way away from what this is telling us, and not quite sure how to integrate it, but that's my journey.
Well, I'll give you some thoughts on that. It's really what you're dealing with there is their self-concept. Their body is a reflection of their self-concept, which is a false self-concept. So they've identified themselves with the body, very identified with the body, because that's why they're overweight. Otherwise, they just wouldn't be. And so then the behavior of the overeating is part of that identification, and then that self-concept wrapped up in the body is something that they loathe. This is because it's so clearly dysfunctional. And it doesn't look good, and then they judge themselves, and other people might judge them. for being overweight, and it's all false identification, body identification. So the true healing is of the mind. It's not really about losing weight.
No,
That's
no.
that's a product of changing their self-concept. So if you can teach them in the workshop or whatever you're doing that they're not a body, and they can really get that, well, therein lies the healing.
Yeah,
And
that's
very
what.
soon after that, the weight will probably go because it doesn't serve any purpose anymore.
Mm. Yeah, we're definitely working with the body. We're definitely working with the mind, not the body. We're not doing weight loss or anything, but we're changing the minds. But that body identification is so strong. It doesn't matter how many times we discuss it, talk about it, share it. It's still very embodied.
Well, they need a disciplined mind training program like the course to undo that. Yeah, you're not. I agree. They're probably not going to shift their self-concept overnight. You can drop in these ideas, and maybe some of them can get a little bit of, oh, okay, well, maybe, maybe that's a possibility. But they're a deep-seated pattern. I mean, if they're 30, 40, 50 years old and they've been playing this pattern for their entire life, and over, I mean, so many people are overweight, this becomes the focus of their life, doesn't it? Food and weight, and so over and over and over again they think these thoughts, they feel the emotions, they've done that for 20, 30, 40 years. It's going to take a bit of undoing. Not just going to suddenly drop in one idea saying, I'm not a body, I'm free, and they just get it. So you're going to encourage them to do a mind training program like this and say, look, this is going to take a lot of work to undo. That
Yeah, we're doing it on a monthly program basis. So
here's the program. There's a Course in Miracles. They're going to help you.
Yeah, well, we're doing it over a long course of time.
Sorry, Sam, what did you say?
It's really interesting doing the Course in Miracles, Yad and I doing it, and then teaching it in another form for another reason, really. It's just really interesting translating it into another genuine, another
domain, yeah.
Yeah, but that passage was really strong. That was like, oh, I see. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Oh, yeah, it's the guilt and the attack and all that. Yeah. Anyway, it meant a lot to me.
Good. We're obviously meant to read that one.
Yeah.
And they've made their true self, their enemy through all of this. And they don't realize what they're doing because it's all a mask. The body is a mask for the attack of the mind upon itself. Remember that. So they're not actually attacking the body, they're attacking themselves, their own mind and their self-concept through all of these thoughts. And then the body just manifests that. And then, they have an overweight body, a sick body, whatever. It's all a product, a manifestation of the sick mind. So it's to teach them, that they're not that body and that they are the true self, the Christ. And all of this attack and guilt is simply not justified. That will ultimately free them. But that's a process. It requires a lot of mind training. They need to really understand, some of what we're discussing here. So why am I not a body? So there's a whole, there's layers and layers of this, and understanding the ultimate truth of who you are in the universe, and it's all got to be unwound. And so for those people, their path to awakening is then, that this can be the catalyst for their awakening, their apparent problem of being overweight. Just what the spirit will use to as the starting point to take them on the journey.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Happy with number 2?
Very happy, thank you.
Number 3 then?
It is not your true self you see by looking thus. It is the enemy confused with your true self you look upon and hate, because there is no sin in him for you to see. Nor do you hear his plaintive call, unchanged in content in whatever form the call is made, that you unite with him and join with him in innocence and peace. And yet beneath the belief in separation's senseless shrieks, such is the call that pure formless awareness, perfect love has given him, that you might hear in him its call to you and answer by returning unto pure formless awareness of perfect love, what is its own?
Okay. Anything stand out for you there?
I just don't understand that last sentence. What is its own?
Okay. Let's unpack that. Quite a long sentence. So read it from the top and yet beneath.
What's the original?
Yeah, read the original.
And yet beneath this ego's senseless shriek, such is the call that God has given him, that you might hear in him his call to you and answer by returning unto God what is his own. Yes.
Yeah. So make more sense. What is its own? You hear in him the call, his call to you. So God's call to you. Call it pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's given him so that you might hear in him its call to you. Answer by returning to pure formless awareness.
And yet beneath the belief in separation, such is the call that pure formless awareness has given. Are we talking about the true self? Are we talking about the companion or the enemy?
Yeah, him has given him. It's talking about your not Christ you see by looking inside. This is the enemy.
Yeah.
Confused with Christ you look upon. So this apparent enemy is your brother, your companion.
Yeah.
It just is confused with your true self. You look upon. And hate because there is no sin in him for you to see.
I think it would really help me if we made reference to that companion.
Okay. There's the enemy confused with your true self you look upon, and hate because there is no sin in your companion instead of in him.
Yeah. Aha, that's much better. Nor do you hear his plaintive call, unchanging content in whatever form the call is made. Yeah, so I'm saying, he's saying, look past whatever presents, all the plaintive cries, and join with him in innocence and peace.
Yeah, so his attacks, in other words, I mean, what he's hinting at here is that all of his dysfunctional behavior, attacks, and whatever is a plaintive call, unchanged in content in whatever form the call is made. So take your landlord. You know, what is it? It's a cry for love. I mean,
it's just a
plaintive call. It's and it comes in the form of, you know, this seemingly unwarranted, rather vicious attacks. Really, it's a plaintive call from, you know, someone who's lost in the dream world.
Yeah.
For some kind of help.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, on some subconscious level, she's aware that you could help her. So then, you know, there's this drama that's playing out where she's actually calling for help, but in the form of attacking you, seemingly making your life really difficult. But actually, the call is the same, no matter what the form of it is, which is what he's saying. Join with him in innocence and peace. That might not happen on the level of form, but you can always do it in your mind. You see that person, you know, if you can see her as she truly is, then whatever the ego is showing you doesn't need to affect you.
Yeah, that's true.
Not easy, because, you know, the form of it is like, okay, well, you've got to deal with this person who's charging into your house and screaming and doing whatever. But can you maintain that? Okay, you know, actually, I'm not moved by the dream. It's just a dream figure that's being used by the ego to do its thing. I'm not moved by that because it's not true. You know, what's being shown to me is just a projection of a false thought system. And she's not really who she thinks she is. She's totally confused. You know, this ego has hijacked this body, and it's using this using this body to, to project itself into the world to try and do its evil works.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you see through all of that, and there's, deeper love and compassion.
I see that, and I also see the time, nearly past.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got time for another paragraph or two.
I think I need to go. Sorry.
Okay.
Lovely.
Thanks,
Thank you so much. It's been very, very lovely. See you
Okay.
next time. Bye.
See you tomorrow.
I'll do this verse.
Do the last one.
The
Okay.
extension of pure formless awareness of perfect love asks only this of you, that you return to it, what is his due, that you may share in it with it.
Yeah, well, we actually have to make that an it, really, because if it's capital extension, the Son of God. In this sense, I think the Course also, it's like that's capitalized, but then that's referring to the same thing becomes small. So that's how they do it. But I think it's better if it's both caps. But you return to it, what is its due.
It was the last bit that was making me laugh. That you may share in it with it. So we've got 4 it's.
Yeah, exactly. Extension of perfect love asks only that you may share in it. But again, that should be a capital, really, shouldn't it? Because that it is referring to God. Return to him what is his due. You may share in it. Okay, hang on, share in it. Return to him what is his due. So it's referring to what is his due. But that what is his due is actually God, is pure formless awareness of perfect love. So that should really be a capital. That you may share in its perfect love.
I think it needs that just to break up the constant.
Yeah, too many it's. Yeah. You may share its perfect love. Plus only this, that you return. How about this would make it better. Your companion. I think that makes the whole sentence better. To return to your companion what is his due. So that you may share
perfect love with him.
share your source's perfect love with him. Happy with that?
That's better.
I think so. Makes more sense.
So it's about releasing each other, isn't it? Yeah. Alone does neither have it. So I don't have it, the source love, and neither does he. So must it remain useless to both. Together it will give to each an equal strength to save the other and save himself alongside with him. Released by
you want to change save to awaken, I think.
Released by you, your awakener offers you awakening. Yep. Yeah.
Awaken himself along with him. And again, too many hymns together it will give to each an equal strength to awaken the other and awaken himself along with his companion. Like too many hymns and his companion.
Okay, condemned by you, he offers death to you. In everyone you see but the reflection of what you choose to have him be to you. If you decide against his proper function, the only one he has in truth, you are depriving him of all the joy he would have found if he fulfilled the role pure formless awareness of perfect love gave to him. But think not the state of pure formless awareness is lost to him alone, nor can it be regained unless the way is shown to him through you, that you may find it walking by his side. That's clearer in the second half of the paragraph to me. That I release myself, I release the one I'm persecuting or seeing as less than perfect love. Wow, it's hard.
Yeah, it's to see. It's a total inversion of your perception. You know, someone's behaving badly, attacking you, and you have to deny that and say, no, actually they're my companion.
Yeah.
And we're walking side by side towards heaven, even if it seems to be completely opposite in this world.
That's it.
That's the thought traversal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's necessary.
Necessary thought. Okay.
Side. So same message again. You know, your brother is your salvation, is your awakening. As you see him, you see yourself, and don't be tempted to condemn.
Yeah.
Because that offers you death, and both of you death. Perceive him as the Christ, no matter what the person is believing himself or herself and what they're doing, and that's flies right in the face of the ego, but that's why it's effective.
Yeah, I can criticize myself for wanting it a bit both ways, you know, not liking a particular behavior in somebody. Really, but really trying to keep in the center their love, their perfect love. But I don't like what they do. Yeah.
The thing is to differentiate between identity and behavior.
Yeah.
So their behavior is coming from a false self.
Yeah.
That's not who they really are. It's not their true self. So don't judge them, because as soon as you judge them for that, what are you doing? You're making that false self real. I mean, it's so cunning, isn't it? This is how the ego works.
Yeah.
It shows you the behavior and says, well, look, and therefore they must be this because they're demonstrating it.
Yeah.
And then it convinces you that false self, the ego, must be true through your judgment and your condemnation of them. And then it must be true for you as well.
Right.
And it's just hijacked your mind and denied the true self.
Yeah.
In that process. Ingenious. I mean, if you were going to invent a thought system that was false and you wanted to maintain it, then this is exactly what you do. You invent an external world with all kinds of justifications for seeing the false self everywhere, and seemingly proving that it's true. And that's exactly what the ego's done. Kind of a bit diabolical, really.
But, very much so. Well,
we
thanks.
can see it differently.
Yeah, thanks. That's brilliant. Okay. Need to go now.
Okay.
I'll see you soon. Thank you.
See you tomorrow, hopefully. So there's no session tonight because we've basically covered this. So tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Ciao.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let's finish this. Just 2 more paragraphs to go. So there's no sacrifice that he be saved, for by his freedom will you gain your own. To let his function be fulfilled, but the means to let yours be. And so you walk toward heaven, or the state of pure formless awareness, or toward hell, but not alone. And hell is victimhood. L stands for the helpless, enervated little life, which is quite well demonstrated in this diagram, page 18 of the course manual. Individuals incarnate, believing they're victims of an unfair world, live a helpless, enervated little life. Enervated means weakened. Helpless, enervated little life, limitation, lack, loneliness, and suffering before their bodies die. So that's what the ego holds out as an identity for us. And that's the identity of the victim, which is the lowest self-concept possible. You've denied all of your true power, and you believe that you're the victim, which is now outside of you, and you have no control over it. And so you're very disempowered, very scared, very afraid. And that is really what hell is. So hence we do the translation of victimhood. So you walk toward the state of pure formless awareness, or toward victimhood, but not alone. So you go one way or another together. How beautiful is sinlessness. How beautiful. There's no sacrifice that he instead of saved, awakened. No sacrifice that he be awakened. By his freedom, by his freedom, you will gain your own. Let his function be fulfilled. There's only the means to let yours be. So in other words, everyone's awakening is your awakening. As they fulfill their true function, so you can fulfill yours. And so you walk toward the state of pure formless awareness, or toward victimhood, but not alone. You go with your brothers, companions. How beautiful is sinlessness. Translate that as innocence. How beautiful as innocence will be when you perceive it, and how great will be your joy. How great your joy will be. When it's free to offer you the gift of sight, pure formless awareness of perfect love gave to him for you. So we can see our brothers truly. That's a gift from pure formless awareness of perfect love. Companion has no need but this. Companion has no need but this. No need except. No need except that you allow him freedom to complete the task pure formless awareness, perfect love gave to him. So remembering about this, so that you remember only this. Remember only this. Remember only that what he does, you do. You do along with him. What he does, you do as well. As you perceive him, so do you define the function he will have for you. Until you perceive him differently. Let him be what pure formless awareness of perfect love pointed that he be to you. Let's read it from the top. There is no sacrifice that you be awakened. And then let's make that your companion. No sacrifice that your companion be awakened, for by his freedom you will gain your own. That his function be fulfilled is only the means to let yours be. So, there's no competition in awakening. His awakening is your awakening. It's an encouragement that if someone else can do it, so can you. And so you walk. His function be fulfilled is only the means to let yours be. So you walk toward the state of pure formless awareness or toward victimhood, but not alone. So, depending which thought system you believe in, you're going together with your brothers, your companions, towards either the state of pure formless awareness or toward victimhood, but not alone. You take all your companions with you. How beautiful his innocence will be when you perceive it. And how great your joy will be when he is free to offer you the gift of sight. Your formless awareness of perfect love gave to him for you. Your companion has no need except that you allow him freedom to complete the task pure formless awareness of perfect love gave to him. Remember only what he does, you do as well. Remember only what he does, you do as well. As you perceive him, so do you define the function he will have for you. Until you perceive him differently, let him be where pure formless awareness of perfect love appointed that he be to you. So in other words, as we perceive others, we define ourselves. We define functioning we have for you. See someone as other than perfect love, other than their true self, then you give them that function. And the only way you're going to change this is we perceive the person differently. Let this person be what pure formless awareness of perfect love appointed. let this person be to you. So once again, Course is emphasizing relationships. As you see another, you see yourself. If you see the Christ in the brother, you will see it in yourself. If you see the ego, then you perpetuate in the ego in yourself. And this is how it works. This is how the ego works, to convince you that you are not your true self. It focuses your perception on others and says, well, look at what they've done. You know, that's not of God, that's not of love, and then makes it real in your perception. And so that thought system is real, and that denies Christ in you, true self, who you really are. Okay, so moving on to number 6. Against the hatred that the Son of God, or the extension of perfect love, his pure form, so as a perfect love, believed to be without the power to say what it created from the pain of hell. Without the power to awaken what it created from the pain of victimhood. But in the love he shows himself as pure formless awareness of perfect love, made free to let its awareness be present. In the love he shows himself extension of perfect love, or like that itself. In the love he shows himself as pure formless awareness, perfect love made free to let its awareness be present. When we love ourselves, then naturally the pure formless awareness, perfect love is there, is what it's saying. In your companion, you see the picture of your own belief. And what pure formless awareness of perfect love must be for you. And see to perceive. Perceive the picture of your own belief in what pure formless awareness of perfect love must be for you. If there's not a nice picture, then we must let go of our belief in the picture. So we perceive the picture of our own belief in pure formless awareness. And maybe that needs to be God. A picture of your own belief in what God letting go, forgiveness. Will you understand its love for you, for your attack, belief it hates you. Letting go. Letting go, you will understand its love for you through your attack. Believe it hates you. Thinking state of pure formless awareness must be hell. So we translate to victimhood. Total inversion. We think this state of pure formless awareness, it's only blessing. And that it's somehow making us a victim. Represents victimhood. Look once again upon your companion, but without the understanding that he is the way to state of pure formless awareness or to hell. As you perceive him, as you perceive him, he becomes the way to the state of pure formless awareness or to victimhood. But do not forget this. As you see your brother, you see yourself. It's really the same message, just reiterated again. Do not forget this. The role you gave to him is given to you. So you see your brother as persecutor, attacker, and then it's given to you that role. And you will walk the way you pointed out to him because it is your judgment on yourself. So you point out the way to others, but it's a judgment on yourself. And all of this is not true. Whatever your brother is showing you in the ego is simply not true, no matter what they think and say and do, it remains untrue. So our job as miracle workers is just to see that. So I'll read that last paragraph one more time. It's against the hatred that the extension of perfect love may cherish toward itself, this pure formless awareness of perfect love, believed to be without the power to awaken what it created from the pain of victimhood. But in the love he shows himself, this pure formless awareness of perfect love made free to let its awareness be present. In your companion, you perceive the picture of your own belief in what pure formless awareness of perfect love must be for you. Nor letting go, you will understand its love for you, and through your attack, believe it hates you. Thinking the state of pure formless awareness must be victimhood. Look once again upon your companion, not without the understanding that. With the understanding, once again upon your companion. As you perceive him, it's the understanding that he becomes the way to the state of pure formless awareness or to victimhood. So he points the way to you depending on how you perceive him. Do not forget this. The role you give to him is given to you. You will walk the way you pointed out to him, because it is your judgment on yourself. Okay, so key message of the section is that we judge ourselves as we see our brothers, so we see ourselves. That attack and sin. Attack and sin are part of one. Illusory thought system. It seems to be the cause and justifier of the other. That's already meaningless alone. Not this false Each seems to draw meaning from the other, but they're equally illusory. And job is to perceive my companions correctly. As their true self, rather than as victims. Since we're alone, job is to perceive my companions correctly as their true selves rather than as victims, so that I perceive myself correctly in the same see myself as correctly as a true self rather than victims, so that I can see myself as the same self. Transcend my own belief in victimhood. My journey journey my companions to the same destination as them. It's up to me to decide which destination this is. Which destination this is. Destination this is, and I make the right decision when perceive them. For the state of pure formless awareness, and I perceive them as they truly are, and I am as well. The key message of the section is that attack and sin are part of one illusory thought system, so each seems to be the cause and justifier of the other. They are really meaningless alone. Although each seems to draw meaning from the other. My job is to perceive my companions correctly as their true self rather than as persecutors or victims, so that I can perceive myself as the same self. Transcend my own belief in victimhood. I journey with my companions to the same destination as them, and so it's up to me to decide which destination this is. I make the decision for the state of pure formless awareness rather than victimhood, when I perceive them as they truly are. And I am as well. So as I see summary, guilt, attack, and sin are all the same, part of one thought system, seem to justify each other, but they're not true. They're meaningless, and the way out of this is to see my brother, companions as they truly are, as the true self, which is then how I see myself. So overlook everything else, forgive or let go of all the other behaviors, and see only the truth. That brings us to the end of the section. Reading, simple, short, great message that as we see our brothers, we see ourselves, and so they are the key to our salvation. So that's a wrap for the session. Thanks for joining, Sally and Iona, and anyone else who's listened to this recording. I hope it's been insightful, enlightening, and I hope to see you soon in a live session. Join us tomorrow, Friday at 12:30 UK time, 1:30 SA time. And have a lovely flowing afternoon, evening in the meantime. Namaste, which means the divine peace, and the true self in me acknowledges and honors that same self and the peace it inevitably brings in you.